Imagine this scene. It's Sunday afternoon. You're sitting at the table with your family. There's laughter, the smell of the usual food, the same anecdotes that have been repeated for 20 years. Everything seems to be in its place. And yet, as you look at them, you feel a sharp void in your chest. A thought hits you with the force of a lightning bolt. I don't fit in here. It's not that you don't love them. It's that you feel that even though you share DNA, you don't share an internal world. Their values grate on you. Their conversations bore you. Or worse, their ways of seeing life feel deeply foreign, or even painful. You feel like an astronaut who has landed on a planet where everyone looks like you, but nobody speaks your language. Does this sound familiar? We often think that feeling this way is a sign that we are bad children, bad siblings, or that we are broken. We punish ourselves thinking we should be able to blend in, to be normal within our clan. But today I want to give you a different perspective. That feeling of being an outsider isn't a factory defect. It is the psychological response to a phenomenon we call cognitive dissidence. Today we're going to discover why your mind decided to take a different path than your family's, and how you can stop feeling guilty for being the puzzle piece that simply belongs to a different box. Reframing. The revelation of the cognitive dissident. The first thing we must understand is that families are not just groups of people related by blood, they are ecosystems of beliefs. For a family to function in a traditional way, there is usually an invisible contract, a set of rules, fears, and truths that everyone accepts to maintain harmony. When you start questioning those rules, whether because you decided to study something different, because you hold a different ideology, because you healed traumas they prefer to ignore, or simply because your sensitivity is different, you become a cognitive dissident. Cognitive dissidence isn't rebellion for the sake of it. It's what happens when your mental map no longer matches the map of the family territory. Science tells us that the brain seeks coherence. If your family says the world is dangerous and you must stay close, but your experience tells you the world is an opportunity, an electrical tension is created in your nervous system. Feeling like a stranger is in fact the sign that you have successfully differentiated yourself. And although it hurts, differentiation is the highest level of psychological maturity. The mechanism. Why the group expels you. We have to travel back in time to our most primitive biology. The imperative of family homeostasis. In biology, homeostasis is the tendency of a system to maintain equilibrium. Families work the same way. If the family is a boat and you start moving too far to one side, because you think differently, the rest of the crew will move to the opposite side so the boat doesn't tip over. The problem is that to them, your change is a threat to the balance. That's why they often try to bring you back to the fold through criticism, sarcasm, or silence. They don't do it out of malice, they do it because their nervous system interprets your difference as a danger to the group's unity. Bowen's family systems theory. Psychologist Murray Bowen explained that there is something called the undifferentiated family ego mass. It's a complex way of saying that, in many families, everyone is expected to feel and think the same. If you have a higher level of differentiation of self than your parents or siblings, you will experience a phenomenon called pioneer's loneliness. You are seeing things they cannot see. It's as if you've started seeing in colour, in a room where everyone else sees in black and white. You cannot unsee what you've already seen, but you can't force them to see the colours either. That gap is what generates the feeling of strangeness. Practical strategies. How to inhabit your own planet. Feeling like a stranger doesn't mean you have to cut ties, unless there is abuse, of course, but it does mean you need a new instruction manual. Tool 1. Compassionate detachment. This is the ability to be physically present without being emotionally hooked to their expectations. How to apply it? At the next gathering, observe your family as if you were an anthropologist studying an interesting culture. Ah, look, there's my aunt repeating the same comment from 10 years ago. What an interesting pattern. By observing instead of reacting, you reclaim your power. Tool 2. The safe compartment. Accept that you can only share certain layers of your inner onion with your family. Don't try to get them to validate your new life philosophy or your career if you know they don't have the tools to understand it. Seek validation from your chosen family, friends, mentors, and keep safe zone topics with your biological family. It's not being fake, it's being wise with your energy. Tool 3. Exit boundaries. Sometimes the problem isn't what they say, but how much time you spend exposed to it. Learn to leave before the feeling of strangeness turns into resentment. If you know that after 2 hours you start feeling bad, plan your exit. I've loved seeing you, but I have to head out now. Being the master of your own time reduces the anxiety of feeling trapped in a mold that no longer fits. Warnings. When the strangeness has other names. It's important to make a small scientific parenthesis. Sometimes, feeling like you don't fit isn't solely due to a difference in values, but to specific neurobiological configurations. For example, highly sensitive people, HSP, or those on the ADHD or autism spectrum, often grow up in neurotypical families that don't understand their way of processing the world. If this is your case, your feeling of being a stranger has a sensory basis. It's not just that you disagree with their ideas, it's that your nervous system processes volume, lights and emotions differently. In these cases, self-compassion must be doubled. You are not just a cognitive dissident, but a different processor entirely. Psychological support. You are the chain breaker. I want to tell you something important, and I hope this reaches your heart. Being the stranger in the family is often the bravest role someone can play. In systemic psychology, we often call people like you the seekers, or the lineage healers. You are the one who dared to question inherited truths. You are the one who said, "This thing we've done for generations no longer works for me." Yes, it is lonely. Yes, it sometimes hurts to see that they cannot join you in the depths where you move. But remember that because you didn't fit in, your children, your friends, or even future versions of yourself will have permission to be free. You are not a defective piece. You are the piece that decided the original puzzle was too small for its vision. In summary, feeling like a stranger in your family is not a personal failure. It is the natural result of your growth and differentiation. Family is a system that seeks balance, and your change disrupts it. Cognitive dissidence is a sign of mental health and having your own judgment. You can love your family from the emotional distance you need to protect your peace. You don't have to stop being yourself for them to feel comfortable. Home isn't necessarily where you were born, it's the place where you don't have to apologize for being who you are. Has this happened to you? At what point did you feel you were speaking a different language than your parents or siblings? I'd love to read your story in the comments. Sometimes reading that others are going through the same thing is the first step toward not feeling alone. Remember, you aren't broken, you are simply blooming in a different garden. See you in the next video.